What's going on, everybody? East Tactics here, and I'm finally ready to build my own RC jump, and I want to show you guys exactly how I did it. There it is right there in its glory, hanging up in my garage. And I thought to myself, what is the best way to kind of show you guys how I built this ramp? If you want to duplicate this, because my goal for this ramp was to make a lightweight ramp, but also more durable than your average jump. So there's two different modalities of what I saw on the internet. What people are building right now, they're either building something that is extremely durable or they're building something that is extremely light. And I decided, you know what? I kind of want to go the light build, something that I can pick up with one arm, carry it around, fit it inside of my Pathfinder without me having to put caster wheels on it or anything like that. So that was the goal. All right. First and foremost, let me just say a couple of things that I did to make this thing stronger, even though it's a light build. So it's stronger because there's actually 4 brace pieces instead of just one on the side and one on the side, lending more support to the center of the ramp where the RC car is going to be launching off and hitting the most, right? Most of the time when you see people creating these ramps, they've got just one here, one here. Of course, they're using like 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch thick pieces of wood here, right? And then for me, you'll notice that these are just little 1x2. I use those instead of 2x4s because they're much lighter in weight. Now, you might think to yourself, man, that's a lot of cutting trying to fit like slat and slat, 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 slat. But that's not what I did. I designed this to be a lot easier than that, even though it might look a little more complicated. It was pretty easy how I put this together. That is one solid piece going all the way from there to there, one solid piece. So it's all about how you cut these pieces. The other thing that I'm really proud of in regards to strength is I went in and I put metal along the feet. So you'll notice here that that is a metal caster going all the way down so that I can push this thing in and out of the back of my Pathfinder or in the back of a truck or on a pavement or concrete or out in, you know, dirts and rock. And I don't have to worry about over time the sides of this really thin, you know, this stuff's pretty thin. It's only 1/4 inch thick. So you don't want that stuff to start chipping away, getting damaged. So that's another really cool level of durability that I've added to it. All right, so let me tell you from the beginning how to build this thing. It's a 45-degree launch. It's 4 foot wide exactly, and it's about 42 inches long. So let me kind of give you a breakdown right here of what you'll need to pick up when you run to the store. Okay, so you'll need to pick up 5 of these long, they're called 1x2s. Here's a picture of the label. It said rad pin, which I think that might be pine. Again, the exact dimensions are actual 0.75 by 1.5, but you'll buy 5 of those, okay? Getting 5 of those for me cost $40 because they were like $7.68 a piece. Or maybe pine is a little bit more expensive, so I don't know. I mean, maybe pine's a little stronger too, granted. But you might be able to find these exact pieces for cheaper than $7.68 a piece. So then you have to pick up 2 of these 2x4s, okay? You'll notice I just kind of drew the design of the cutout right there, but these are just 2x4 sheets of fir plywood. They're actually a little bit thicker than 1/4 inch because this is also a 1/4 inch, this 8x4 piece that I bought that's way more bendy and flexible. And you'll know, I noticed that these 2x4s of the fir wood were not quite as flexible. So, and they are also thicker, which makes sense that they'd be less flexible because they were a little bit thicker. So pick up 2 of those for $26. They were $13.30 a piece. Then you pick up one, I found one giant sheet of 8x4, and I took it to the back of Lowe's and had them cut it in half for me, right down the middle. And this is what they call a, here's the label right here for this, okay? Now, there's different materials that you can buy for all of these things, really, but particularly this, you want to basically double it up on the top so that when your RC car hits it, it doesn't break. Then you want to buy 2 1/4 inch plywood channels. These are 8 foot long each, and I cut that to make those bottom pieces. If you don't already have it, you might want to get yourself some wood glue. And I used some Gorilla Tape. You'll notice, see how the Gorilla Tape is put on different points. I did that mostly for the ends because I did pre-tap my holes in the ends and I wanted to add an extra layer of strength around the ends. And also I did cut my holes a little bit too large, which is why you saw me insert those metal pieces in there. And so I was thinking that would help clear up some of the slop. So I wrapped them there. Now, you don't have to do any of the taping if you don't want to. I particularly feel like it's needed on the ends. So that's what I did with the Gorilla Tape. Again, sort of an extra caveat for strength that you can implement. So a roll of tape, $10. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot. I got a box of 50 of these number 8 self-tapping screws, and I went ahead and put these right here on first. These are the M4, I don't know, washers, but they have like a little bit of a cushion. So I just use that mostly because I wanted to have a washer just so that the screws wouldn't strip through the wood. But yeah, I think the box of 50 of these number 8 screws, you can use any screws really. I just picked these ones. Were about $7, and I think this kit right here also was like $10. So I already had these on hand. So anyway, the total amount came out to $133, but I reckon you could probably get this under $100 if you don't buy, you know, the glue, or let's say you already have some wood glue on hand. Let's say you already have some duct tape on hand. You don't need to pick that up. And you find like these pieces, instead of $6 or $7 a piece, you find them for like $2 or $3 a piece, or any of these components you find for cheaper. All right, so let's talk about the build process. All right, so these are my 2 pieces that I'm going to be using ultimately to create 4 side skirts. I'm not going to do the more common thing where people just have 2 sides and then nothing in the middle. Now, one of the first things you need to realize, this is a 2x4 piece, right? Now, when you take a look and you look at the distance from here to here diagonally, you can clearly see that it is longer than 4 feet. We're looking at 4 feet, 5.5 inches, which means that if I decide to use the entire length of this sheet, this board is not going to fit all the way on it, which would be a major mistake when we finally get to that point when we try to cover the ramp with this, right? So we need to take into consideration this concept. Now, we don't necessarily have to utilize the full thing. The goal for these jumps is you want it to be basically a 1-to-2 ratio. So whatever, this is the 1-to-2. Whatever this length is needs to be double the height. We can drop this down from being 2 feet high to being, instead of it being 24 inches, to 21 inches. 21, 42. Now let's measure that distance. All right, so we are good. In fact, we are approximately 1 inch excess. I think we're definitely gonna want to have some excess. Long story short, you're gonna want these two pieces, one to be longer than the other. So I think that's what we're gonna go with. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to determine the arc. So a 45-degree launch angle seems to be what everybody raves about. So to determine a 45-degree angle, that's pretty simple. All we need to do is measure, this is 21 inches. All we need to do is measure 21 inches from here and then draw a line. So that's a 45-degree launch. This is where you find a piece of flexible, anything really, anything flexible. Okay, we're gonna wanna screw a screw right in. We can just put it right on the outside or right at the corner, on the outside of the line. Now, we're gonna pull this thing down, and when we see this section line up with this line, that's when we're gonna trace it. All right, simple as that. So I'm pretty happy with this line. So now we just need to cut this out and get 4 of these shapes. All right, so the goal for both simplicity as well as uniformity, I want all 4 pieces to be exact. That means I want to cut all 4 of them at the same time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna combine these 2 sheets together, and then I'm gonna draw a straight line from the corner to corner, and I'm gonna cut it down the center so I have 4 exact pieces. And then I'm gonna screw those 4 pieces together, and I'm gonna cut this custom piece out all at the same time. Now you'll notice I have this like 1.5 inch thick foam thing, and honestly I think it's gonna make my life pretty easy. I'm just gonna, instead of using a table, I'm just gonna set my wood flat on that, and it doesn't matter if I cut into that or not, so we should be good. Now at this point I have my line here on the top, and it's the most important for me to get it squared up on the bottom and the back. You notice you can see the 2 holes from previous, so I'm going to put 2 in this way. And flip it. Making sure again that it's square along here and here perfectly. 2 holes from the before, going in the other direction. All right. All right, so as you saw, I cut a little piece of this so I know where to mark my lines. So I want to be careful because on the middle 2 pieces of this setup, I'm going to be notching this out. Since the 2 center pieces are going to be notched out, we don't want to go way down here because then it'll just break. So you want to leave about 1 inch, at least 1 inch. So it happened to work out to where after this one, I went ahead and I went to about right here, which is about center. And there's a good inch of meat here. So we're good. So that's why I went down about 5 or 6 inches, traced my line, and then I put lines all the way down. Okay, and then I just went about as far as I felt like it, which is about, I don't know, 7 or 8 inches. And then I traced it, drew lines down, did it again. So now I'm gonna take the 2 pieces that I want to notch out. And then we want to cut these lines out right here. Okay, I'm gonna come around and do this. All right, so I'll probably have to cut this into the video a little bit early because on these right here, I actually want to put these up because I bought some metal 1/4 inch pieces right here, check this out, that I want to actually put on the bottom. But in order to do that, I need to have about that much of space, right? So I'm actually gonna quickly just pull these out, and then I'm gonna move this pole and this pole right here up a little bit. And I'm just telling you now so that you actually, if you wanna incorporate this tactic, that you cut this up a little bit higher, or not this one, but those 2 pieces right there, cut them a little bit higher. You can do this really any way you want, but the way I'm gonna do it is with a wedge and a hammer, just to kind of notch this out. All right, so I was thinking about this real quick. And I'm gonna put on the two middle pieces where I cut all these slats out, I'm actually gonna cut this out like so. I wanna put a support piece here. Now this whole section is gonna disappear. So I'd rather that be really well supported all the way across than have these two little triangles supporting the center of the jump. So we're gonna cut that out real quick. All right, so we got these two pieces cut for the middle section. The thickness of two of these together is exactly 1/2 inch. So 47.5 is what I want to make the length of all of my rods, 47.5. So 9 times 47.5 for those pieces of wood. Those all look nice and flush. All right, now for the next part. What I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna go through on each one of these and we're gonna wrap the end with Gorilla Tape a few times to just secure a squeeze around this. You know, of course I'm gonna put pre-drill holes in here so I don't crack this, but over time, as the RC car hits the ramp over and over again, you know, honestly, I wish I could find like a metal sleeve to slide right over it and like hammer onto it. That would be ideal, but I couldn't find anything like that, so I just bought some heavy-duty Gorilla Tape. Got them all lined up, all 9 of them, and as you can see right there, it says 15 3/4. Basically, I'm going to have a brace here, a brace here, so 15 3/4, 15 3/4 right here. Okay, so that's exactly where the brace is going to be. And I'm gonna wrap a bead around it here, 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 and here. Okay, you can do that to all 9 of these. I'll be back when I'm finished with that. So, got the tape on all of them. You can kind of see how much tape I put on, just to kind of get rid of some of that slop. I did cut these holes just a little big, and so it'll get rid of some of that slop. That slop there. That's why I did that. All right, so now, we're just gonna start assembling it. One of the nice things about having the 2 centerpieces is we should be able to just basically assemble it pretty easily, and it should kind of hold itself up. We'll see. The size of hole that we're gonna pre-tap a 3/32 hole in the end of all of these. I'm gonna pre-tap right before I drill the screw in and just do it as I go. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do that to all 4 pieces, and then I'm gonna use my Dremel and cut it out. right in the center of the tape, essentially. Now, we put these on. We're going to glue these on. So, light build, check. Extra durable, check. I mean, I can literally just take this thing and pick it up with one arm. I mean, it is very light. Of course, I still got to put both my laminates on it. That will definitely add some weight. I did kind of cut my holes a little big, as you can see right here. See that gap right there? So when you are cutting yours out, if you implement this build, I would definitely, instead of cutting on the outside of the trace line, I would cut either slightly on the inside of it or right on the trace line, like I mentioned earlier in the video. All right, well, tomorrow I will go ahead and slap on the top pieces and we will be send ready. Hey, what's up everybody? On day 2 of working on the ramp, gonna be finishing it up. Man, of all the days I could have done a sunset overdrive challenge. So it's gone down now, but I took a picture of it when I pulled in from work. Check this out, man. If I would have done my jump with that sunset, that would have been epic. You guys remember the sunset overdrive challenge last year? I think it was last year. So the whole idea was to do your challenge during a sunset. I have not seen a sunset that epic in a long time. Anyway, so coming back to this, so remember how I was telling you I put the tape on all of these center pieces because I knew I had some slop in here to get rid of? Well, I didn't quite get rid of the slop as much or as tight as I wanted to. And I noticed I had some excess pieces of this stuff left over from creating the footers. So I'm gonna cut slats of this in that size and basically slide them in to get rid of the slop in those places. Something to keep in mind if you do implement the footers. If you do have some slop, use the excess pieces from the 2 pieces you picked up to do this. So let's go ahead and cut these now, get them installed, and move on from there. I've kind of punched some of them in already. There's one there, there's one there. A lot of them in different places, just to kind of get rid of that slop. All right, now it's time to get the top pieces on. I was considering the idea of putting glue down on top of each one of the slats under this, but I changed my mind in regards to that because if I want to replace these top boards, I don't want them to be glued to the framing. So I'm not going to put glue down on each of the studs. I am going to put glue on top of this piece and then glue the 2 pieces together because if I ever do replace them, I'll replace both. Anyway, we designed it to be 21 inches tall, 42 inches long, but specifically that measurement was done because I wanted there to be a little bit of about 1.5 inches or so hangover from this piece, just so that it sits more flush to the ground, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this piece up. So we want it to be about 1.5 inches or so. So let's make sure it looks nice and square. And then I'll put my knees down on it and we'll put our screws in. Now for this bottom board, I'm only gonna put in 6 screws just to hold this one down because every screw that I put in through the top board is gonna go through this one as well. So it's pointless to go overkill on this one. So I guess I could probably just do 4 screws instead of 6. Anyway, I wanna make sure it's all lined up. So I'll look at it here and here. Shift it around a little. All right. I happen to know that this board right here on top is wider than the other one, so it's a little bit easier to hit. It seems to be holding just fine. So anyway, now you can see I have excess there on purpose. All right, so when I put this one on now, how we want it, and you'll notice now, because we did this, See how much flatter that sits on the ground? Because of that. So now it's time to put the glue down. Quick reminder of the glue that I'm using. Titebond level 3. I actually did some research on this, found one of my favorite YouTubers who does comparisons on this type of stuff, and he found that this stuff was the ultimate, so that's why I went with it. So I want to run a line about this far, so I'm just going to mark it going down. So about 1.5 inches, actually about 2 inches out, 2 inches in. So I stay away from those screws. Make sure your drill is handy and your screws are handy. All right. Okay. Now, you notice I still have my pencil in my mouth because I knew I was going to be drawing this line from right there. All right, now I can draw the rest of my lines. Now it's time to put a bunch of screws in. All right, well, there you have it. This is the completed ramp. So the thing that I'm the most proud of regarding this ramp is A, how light it is. One arm. Basically one arm. I'm also really proud of the dual support system, and then of course the metal feet. Looks like all my screws were lined up perfectly. You don't see any poking through. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna just throw these L brackets on right here. So 2 here and 2 here. Make sure that's center. Well, definitely a little bit more complicated of a build. However, taking advantage of lightweight and durable was the goal. The next video, guys, is gonna be me launching my RC off this, so let's get to that, shall we? So getting ready to, we're gonna be jumping this gap right here between the 2 parking garages. So it's gonna go from here all the way across. Oh my head.
Wow. Oh shit, of course.
Flip it over for me, see if it survives.
Right over his head. That was awesome. That like landed 10 feet away from him. What broke? Well, your back wheel. Oh!
Uh,
Was there a piece over there that came off? I thought I saw a piece.
so, looks like the...
Oh man, you broke the freaking...
Hold
Ladies,
it.
I subbed and hit the bell notification, so when the video posts...
Thanks. Yeah, ripped it right out of the hinge pins right there. But the hinge pin seems fine.
Oh, that's not too bad, is it? Or no?
No, those are all easy. This is actually not as bad as it could have been.